Welcome to our channel, lovers of the strange and the terrifying. Tonight we delve into the chilling unknown, into the places where shadows linger and whispers echo with the weight of unspeakable horrors. Tonight we explore three ghostly whispers from abandoned prisons, where the crimes of the past mingle with the mysteries of the afterlife. Prepare yourself, if you dare, for a journey into the heart of darkness, where the walls themselves whisper secrets best left buried. Our first tale takes us to the crumbling ruins of Cranston Penitentiary, a place steeped in darkness and despair. For decades it held society's most hardened criminals, witnessing unspeakable acts within its cold, unforgiving walls. Now abandoned and left to decay, it's said that Cranston is haunted by more than just memories. Many believe the most restless spirit is that of a former guard, a man named Silas Thatcher, known for his brutal treatment of inmates. Old records paint him as a cruel man, a man who delighted in inflicting pain. Some say Thatcher died within these very walls, murdered by an inmate during a riot years ago. Whatever the truth of his demise, those who dare to venture into Cranston after dark report a chilling presence. Footsteps echo through the empty cell blocks, heavy and measured, like a guard making his rounds. Keys jangle on a metal ring, the sound bouncing off the cold, damp stone. Some have described seeing a shadowy figure at the end of a corridor, a fleeting glimpse of a tall, imposing man in what appears to be an old guard uniform. He never speaks, never confronts, but his presence is heavy, suffocating. He seems to vanish into the shadows as quickly as he appears, leaving behind a lingering sense of dread and the unsettling feeling of being watched. One paranormal investigator, a man named Dr. Lewis, spent a chilling night within Cranston's walls, hoping to capture evidence of Thatcher's ghost. He set up cameras and recording equipment, hoping to document the unexplained. As the night wore on, Dr. Lewis felt an overwhelming sense of unease, as if unseen eyes were upon him. He described the air growing colder, the silence broken only by the distant sound of dripping water. And then he heard them, the distinct, measured footsteps of the phantom guard. He recounts the fear that gripped him, the feeling that he was not alone. He saw a dark figure on the edge of his vision, a tall silhouette that vanished as he turned to face it. Dr. Lewis left Cranston that night convinced that Silas Thatcher still walked the prison halls, his spirit tethered to the place of his cruelty. Was he seeking redemption, or was he condemned to forever repeat his nightly rounds, a spectral warden in a prison of his own making? The stories of the Phantom Guard continue to circulate, attracting those drawn to the darkness that clings to Cranston. Is it merely legend, fueled by the imaginations of those seeking the thrill of fear? Or does Silas Thatcher still stalk the halls of Cranston, his ghostly footsteps a chilling reminder of the darkness that can linger long after death? Our next journey into the heart of ghostly whispers takes us to the desolate remains of Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary, a place synonymous with isolation and despair. Surrounded by the icy waters of San Francisco Bay, Alcatraz housed some of America's most notorious criminals, men who seemed to vanish into the fog upon their release. But some, it seems, never truly escaped. One particularly chilling tale speaks of a former inmate known only as Whispering Jack, a man convicted of a series of brutal murders. Legend has it that Jack maintained his innocence until his dying breath, claiming that a malevolent entity had driven him to his crimes. Whether this was true or the ramblings of a madman, we may never know. Jack died within the walls of Alcatraz, his final moments marked by a blood-curdling scream that echoed through the cell block. Guards and inmates alike spoke of it in hushed tones, claiming it was a sound of pure terror, as if Jack had seen something truly horrifying in his final moments. Now, years after Alcatraz closed its doors, visitors and park rangers report hearing Jack's ghostly wails echoing through the empty cell blocks, particularly in the dead of night. They describe a chilling, mournful cry, filled with an almost tangible sense of despair and anguish. Some say the cries are strongest near the cell where Jack spent his final days, a cold, cramped space that seems to radiate an unsettling aura. Visitors claim to feel a cold spot in the center of the cell, as if the temperature plummets despite the California sun beating down outside. One park ranger, a woman named Sarah, described her own chilling encounter with the wailing inmate. She was locking up for the night, making her rounds through the empty cell blocks. The air was still, the only sound the distant lapping of waves against the island's rocky shore. As she passed by Jack's former cell, Sarah froze. A cold shiver ran down her spine and the hairs on the back of her neck stood on end. And then she heard it. A low, mournful wail echoing from the depths of the cell. It was faint at first, but it grew louder, filled with an unspeakable sadness that seemed to claw at her sanity. Sarah fled, her heart pounding in her chest. She never forgot the sheer terror she felt that night, the chilling certainty that she had heard the cries of a tortured soul. Was it the restless spirit of Whispering Jack, forever trapped within the walls of Alcatraz, his cries a desperate plea for release? Or was it something more sinister, the echo of the malevolent entity he claimed had driven him to madness? The wailing inmate remains one of Alcatraz's most enduring mysteries, a chilling reminder that some souls may never find peace, even in death. Chapter 3. The Shadow in the Cell. Our final tale of ghostly whispers leads us to the crumbling depths of Eastern State Penitentiary, a place once considered a model of prison reform, but now a decaying monument to solitude and despair. Its towering walls and eerie silence hold countless stories of suffering and regret, and some say those stories have lingered long after the last inmate left. One particular cell, known only as Cellblock 12, is the focus of a chilling legend, a tale whispered among paranormal enthusiasts and those who dare to explore the abandoned prison. It's said that this cell is home to a shadowy entity, a malevolent presence that terrifies anyone who dares to enter. No one knows the true origins of the shadow. Some believe it's the residual energy of a particularly violent inmate who died within the cell's cold stone walls. Others whisper of a dark entity that was drawn to the prison's aura of despair, finding a home in the darkness of Cell Block 12. Whatever its origins, the shadow is said to be a terrifying sight. Witnesses describe a large humanoid shape, devoid of any discernible features, as if formed from pure darkness. It seems to cling to the back corner of the cell, lurking just beyond the reach of the single light bulb that illuminates the otherwise pitch-black space. Visitors to Cell Block 12 report feeling an overwhelming sense of dread, a feeling of being watched by unseen eyes. The air grows heavy, difficult to breathe, as if a weight has settled upon their chests. Some claim to hear whispers coming from the shadows, unintelligible murmurs that seem to slither just beyond the range of understanding. One paranormal investigator, a woman named Emily, decided to spend the night alone in Cell Block 12, hoping to capture evidence of the shadow. Armed with cameras and recording equipment, she locked herself in the cell as darkness fell upon the prison. At first, the only sound was the beating of her own heart, echoing in the silence. As the hours ticked by, Emily began to feel uneasy. The temperature in the cell seemed to drop, and she could have sworn she saw movement in the shadows at the edge of her vision. She called out, her voice trembling slightly, but there was no answer. And then she saw it. The shadow. It emerged slowly from the darkness in the back corner of the cell, taking on a vaguely humanoid shape. It didn't move, didn't make a sound, but Emily could feel its presence, cold and menacing. Terror gripped her, rooting her to the spot. She fumbled for her camera, her hands shaking uncontrollably, but the shadow vanished as quickly as it appeared, melting back into the darkness. Emily left Cell Block 12 that night, deeply disturbed by what she had witnessed. She couldn't shake the feeling that she had looked upon something truly evil, something that existed beyond the realm of human understanding. The shadow in the cell remains one of Eastern State Penitentiary's most enduring mysteries. Is it merely a figment of our collective imagination, fueled by the darkness that permeates the prison walls? Or does a malevolent entity truly reside in Cell Block 12, waiting for its next unsuspecting victim? Thank you for joining us on this spine-tingling journey into the heart of haunted prisons. We've explored the ghostly whispers of the phantom guard, the chilling cries of the wailing inmate, and the terrifying presence of the shadow in the cell. These tales serve as chilling reminders that some places are best left undisturbed, their darkness holding secrets better left buried. But if you're like us and the allure of the unknown proves too strong to resist, then remember to tread carefully, for you never know what lurks in the shadows, waiting to whisper its own tale of horror. Until next time, sleep tight and don't let the shadows bite.